Welcome to our webinar. We're so excited to highlight CIID TA in practice and share with you some of the lessons from New Mexico's data integration journey. My name's Audrey Rudick, and I'm the TA lead at CIID. And I'm joined today by Jonathan Garcia from New Mexico and Julia Redmond, who will introduce themselves shortly. So we love to put our mission front and center, and ours is to help SEAs and and lead agencies, use data systems efficiently to collect and report accurate and timely Part B and C data. Supporting the use of data standards and modern systems and effective coordination and processes through across agencies. And our goal with this is to make it easier to use data to improve IDEA programs and outcomes for infants, toddlers, and children with disabilities. And we really hope that you will see that in action today as we chat with our colleagues in New Mexico. And so speaking of New Mexico, we're here today to discuss the process of integrating data through Generate as it happened in one state. Our goal is to share with you the CIID TA supports that are available, examine successes and challenges, and really share lessons learned from an ongoing TA effort that you might find looks a little bit different if some of you all are involved in TA efforts of yourself. But this effort has made such a large contribution and impact on the community as New Mexico's implemented Generate. So we're just so excited to share today. And briefly, we want to talk about Generate. Generate is a software that runs on the CEDS data warehouse. It's freely available to all SEAs and is installed by states in their own environments to help automate and simplify reporting for EDFACS data for IDEA files, Part B files, and beyond. Data come from state source systems that are used to manage IDEA and other reporting inputs. Then is aligned to the Common Education Data Standards within Generate. Generate improves consistency across states for EDFACS data by aggregating data according to report specifications, processes that reduces manual reworking of the data. Generate also includes built-in utilities and validations to help ensure accuracy, test data once it's in the data warehouse, and provide numerous report options through reports designed to use standard data. Once you've collected and integrate that data into Generate, our goal is to do that work once and then use the data many times. Finally, updates to Generate are community-driven with a governance group, and the Common Education Data Standards open source community are helping to steer that work. And for more information about Generate, you can see CIID TA's new Generate page, and that link is in the chat for you. Thanks so much, Lindsay, for getting it there. So CIID's role in this is really to support states implementing Generate by offering technical assistance. Our TA includes expertise in project management, hands-on development support that each state who receives intensive TA has a developer assigned, and support for data governance processes within the state. As this is a process supporting changes, really, and that governance is such an important piece. CIID TA also supports the creation of customized technical and process documentation as states build towards sustainability of their Generate implementation. And we do that through the use of our toolkit, our data integration toolkit. If we can go to the next slide, thank you. This toolkit contains action-oriented steps and resources that outline the typical steps and tasks required for integrating data using CEDS. We've drawn from our experiences working with states and best practices for data management to refine the toolkit into replicable steps that the project managers and IT staff can use as they prepare for prepare for and complete these data integration projects and sustain them through over time. So we want to take a quick look at that toolkit and the different steps. We've put the link into chat so you can access the actual language and documents available in the toolkit. And our toolkit's broken into 5 steps. So step 1 is really defining the goals for integration. And this is a step that builds agency level support by developing a use case, which can be used as a pitch document, right? As you're working with people throughout your agency, right? You can kind of create your elevator pitch through it, if you will. We also develop a scope of work, which outlines what will be included within the project, and complete a self-assessment to determine what structures are in place and what can be improved upon. The review of current data system architecture, in addition to having questions about what that architecture might look like in the future, is completed in step 1, so that we know, where we are and where we're heading once the project's complete. In step 2, we establish a project plan and structure for data integration work. And this is where that project management work really resides. We outline the steps for each set of files, the roles of people involved and their responsibilities, and what communication needs to happen, both to leadership and to stakeholders and outwardly for program staff and others who might be working with the data in some capacity. Because we all know how important that communication piece is. In step 3, and I should say a lot of these are happening concurrently, we start mapping the source data elements to CEDS. And this is the process of determining which data are in the system and how they relate to the data elements and the Common Education data standards. Including if there's changes that have to happen between the source systems and the elements that are in CEDS. In step 4, we install Generate, write code to help move that source data into CEDS following the outline created in those mapping documents from step 3. And we work to review and match data as it removes through Generate to ensure that the process is working correctly here. And then finally, in step 5, we're making sure that everybody understands the process and has appropriate documentation in place. We complete after-action meetings and steps to ensure that improvements for the future can be captured. So that's a brief overview of our data integration toolkit here. And with that background, I'd like to introduce you to our really reason for being here today. We are here to chat with New Mexico. And as we get into New Mexico's story, you might find that not everything follows the toolkit precisely, but we will see how we met the state in the midst of what is really, I think, Jonathan, you might say, quite frankly, a lot of change, and how that path of data integration using Generate has gone for them. So please join me in welcoming Jonathan Garcia from New Mexico and Julia Redmond from CIID. Jonathan, Julia, would you all like to introduce yourselves?
Hello, everyone. My name is Jonathan Garcia, as Audrey said. I am a senior application developer here at the Public Education Department in New Mexico, and I am also the EdFax coordinator. So what that means is it's just a fancy way of saying I wear probably 20 different hats here and do a lot of different things, and Julia and Audrey can attest to that, as they were able to pull me into this nice little meeting with you guys. So I'm happy to be here and answer any questions you guys will have.
Thank you so much for being here, Jonathan. So my name is Julia Redmond, and I am the lead TA provider supporting New Mexico, and have been working with Jonathan for about a year and a half, a little less than a year and a half. And Ginger Elliott Teague and Johnny Cunningham are also part of the team supporting New Mexico. Johnny is that developer support that Audrey mentioned. So we're excited to have this conversation today.
Fantastic. So as we get started here, let's set the stage at the beginning of our work together. And we were just talking before we opened the meeting. We kicked off in late 2023, maybe early 2024. Jonathan, and before we get into what happened with Generate, do you want to speak a little bit about where New Mexico was, like at that beginning where this work started?
Yeah, of course. So late 2023, early 2024, we at New Mexico were actually in the process of transitioning from one data collection system to our new data collection system. And part of that transition, we were also having a lot of transition of staff. So we had a lot of people who were retiring. We had some individuals who were kind of moving around positions, stuff like that. But we were the big thing that was occurring at that time was the transition of our old reporting data system to our new reporting data system. And in that process was when we decided it was time to start looking at Generate, because it had been kind of popping up for us for a while, especially when our EdFax coordinator at the time, they kept kind of were pushing it toward, not pushing it, but like they kept kind of nudging her with it, like, hey, there's this tool out here that could be useful to you. And so around that time was around the time when we as well were trying to move into Generate as well.
So lots of change happening there then, with kind of a changing of your reporting data systems. And that's where you're collecting the data? Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So and with new staff and staff change, were there any other constraints that you might have been working under, or?
Those are the biggest constraints, was our shift in staff. We had a shift in our leadership in our CIO at the time. Managers, we just had a kind of a lot of turnover around that time, unfortunately. So those are the biggest constraints that we were experiencing. And then we had some individuals who left, so we were kind of helping each other out as we were trying to continue our data system change. We were just trying to really help everyone get there and accomplish what we needed to accomplish for that year.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned, that Generate kept coming up. What made you all decide on that as a solution for your EdFax reporting?
So during that time, again, we had our CIO, who was still fairly new at that time. She was really wanting us to push into more automated, more easier processes of moving and handling the data. In our old data collection system and in our old federal reporting system, we basically had a bunch of SSRS reports that we had built long time ago. And so we were trying to get away from a lot of that stuff. And so when our previous EdFax coordinator had brought this up to her, she really wanted us to kind of look into it and figure out a way to utilize this tool so it'll help us, and so that way we could also report better data as we're moving into a new data collection system. We could leverage that to make this a lot easier for us on our end and for everyone in our agency.
Oh, awesome, fantastic. So as we kick this off, I'm wondering what did success look like to you? Like, what were the big benchmarks that you were going to consider kind of a successful implementation, or what were your immediate goals? I know to get the data in, maybe, but what did that look
Um,
like?
so I know a lot of, if I remember these correctly, but a lot of our immediate goals at that time, and we were beginning this process, was reducing the amount of time we were spending on creating these files, fixing any kind of data issues we might have been having because of changes that we had in our data collection that year, whatever it might have been. So really trying to reduce the amount of time and how much effort and legwork was going into submitting a lot of these files. Our previous EdFax coordinator, she would spend hours, as a lot of EdFax coordinators are aware, you do spend a lot of hours, especially as you're getting closer to deadlines, but she was spending a lot of hours working a lot of our old SSRS reports and stuff. So the immediate turnaround that we wanted to see was just the improve of process and a quicker and more accurate submission in a timely manner.
Yeah. That's always a plus here.
Yeah.
Julia, from your perspective, what stood out about where New Mexico was when you all started working together? And I know you picked up a little bit like after the kickoff with them, but
Yes. Yes. So I'm pulling from a little bit of historical knowledge I have from when you all first started, but echoing a lot of what Jonathan said. But from my perspective, what really stood out was that New Mexico was navigating this pretty complex environment at the time, working with the legacy systems, implementing the new modern system. At the same time, they still were fully responsible for meeting the reporting deadlines. And there really wasn't an option to pause and regroup. They had to keep moving forward while also trying to balance the modernization. So it was the legacy system was going away, and there was not really a role. There's not really a transition period for that. And another thing that's not unique to New Mexico is limited documentation, and that the core set of folks involved really held all of the knowledge. There were questions about processes, but not a lot of tools and documentation in place to fully understand how things were done before. And that layered on top of key staff transitions that Jonathan mentioned. And really, it is a relatively small team. And I always felt like behind the curtain, there had to be more people for the amount of work that was happening. But just managing the multiple priorities at once, the many hats that Jonathan mentioned, really is a situation where there's a lot of moving pieces, and you need that strong desire and need to stabilize and build something more sustainable. Getting to the how do we not spend all of our time on these manual processes? There are systems and tools that we can use to reduce that. And so what we saw early on was the team that was really committed and capable, but also operating in a space where they needed more structure and support to move forward effectively.
so thinking through then, and I love our road runner here.
Very fast.
Without a plan B or kind of an overlapping of your systems, Jonathan, there was a lot of work to do and not a lot of time to do it. So we're in like this early part of a year, and submissions, as we all know, kind of for the next year start in May. So getting, we had to get Generate installed. How, Jonathan, did you set your team up for success, and how did you make sure that you guys were kind of where you needed to be to get all of this done?
So I think when we did our directory files, the ones that are due now in May, those ones were done with kind of a legacy system, because we stored that data in our legacy system, but not necessarily, it's like in a side area. So I believe we had used that for that first initial submission. After that, it was primarily making sure we had the right people in the right areas. Our previous EdFax coordinator, she had been doing this job for a couple of years, so she kind of had an understanding of how it worked. And then she had kind of understood what she needed to accomplish, where we needed to go in terms of hitting all of our submissions. Unfortunately, she did retire between the July submission and then our December, January submission. And so that was kind of the quick turnaround time where I kind of had to hit the ground running. But the biggest reason I think we were able to have such quick success is the fact that I had a lot of the reporting institutional knowledge that has been here for a while. I have been in this position for quite a long time, or been part of this agency and our data collection for close to 8 years now. So I have a lot of knowledge. So it was easy for me to understand where she was pulling data from and what they were trying to accomplish, rather than someone stepping in and having no understanding of our data systems and what we were collecting and how we were collecting it and where we were collecting it. The other pieces was having the staff that we had around us. our DBA database administrator Tong. He has been truly phenomenal. You talk about when Julia says, like, if we had more people in the background, I still believe Tong has like 5 little Tongs behind him working for all the things that he's done for us. But also with the support that we've gotten from Julia, from Johnny, from all of them, kind of keeping us on track with the hey, these files are due this day. What's the status? As having weekly meetings. Johnny being extremely available and supportive to us, especially as we were trying to figure out the generate side as well, because not only were we learning where our new data was landing in our new system, we were also learning where it all lands in generate, how that process works. And Johnny was just truly phenomenal in helping us move as quickly as we did. The other piece that helped us move quickly is you mentioned it, Audrey, we didn't have a plan B. It was kind of, this is the only plan. You have to use generate. We have to make it work. Granted, we did hit a few hiccups and we did a few things outside of generate as needed. But for the most part, it was, we had a lot of leadership kind of like guiding us and saying this has to be it. We don't have a fallback. We don't have a backup plan or plan B, I guess, if this doesn't work type of scenario. So we had a lot of support and buy-in from our leadership to help us move as quickly as we did as well.
I know that support is just so important, and that buy-in. Julia, did you see anything else that enabled New Mexico to move so quickly through this process?
I'll echo again some of the things that Jonathan said, and it was knowing that leadership transition and the CIO left and landing a new leader who also understood the importance and backed this was unique and also really important. So having that clear priority set by the leadership to move forward, move away from the legacy system and onto the more modern system. And that clarity does make a big difference. Jonathan sets down his 17 hats and has to pick, like, is told the one that he can wear, should wear that day. So it meant that the team didn't have to constantly justify the work. They could just focus on doing it. Another big factor was their willingness to move forward even without perfect conditions. So they couldn't wait for perfect conditions, but didn't wait until everything felt fully defined, just took the first step, committed to it with improvement over time, which is honestly what made the progress possible. Because there was another choice, but it was also, we had to chip away at progress, and that just meant begin the work. The strong collaboration, Jonathan brought up Tong, between the technical and the data team and the program team. We don't always see that. You all are such a close-knit team. So New Mexico, Jonathan working with Tong, and Tong being a critical leader in this work really did drive the success of this. The alignment helped make decisions more quickly. So where you might send an email and wait for someone to get back to you, this crew got on the phone and resolved the issues as quickly as possible. So it made things much more efficient to resolve issues immediately. And then just having the dedicated technical expertise, again, Tong wearing his many hats, being able to take the others off and commit to this, really focus on data movement and the system side was critical. And so just shout out to Johnny and Tong in their collaboration to move this along.
Absolutely. And so what, from your CID perspective, with Julia, your CID hat on, did you do to support this pace of work? Because, this was unusual for us from a TA perspective as well.
Yes. And I know I wasn't sure if I should call it here or in one of the coming questions, but just thinking back to the slide with the toolkit and those 5 different stages, 4 of those stages were all happening at once. And really stage number 1, where we defined the use case, didn't happen because it was just, we're going all in on all the files. So it was slightly different that Audrey hinted at, very different. So our role was really to bring some structure and focus on to what was at the time super fast moving and complex during that school year 2023-24 reporting year. We worked closely with both all the team, prioritizing what needed to happen next and keep the work aligned with the reporting timeline. That included really making a lightweight project plan and coordination in that first year of CIID support. So we adapted our regular project planner to be a more data file based progress tracker and went through those priority files on a weekly basis to understand who owned the next step. And if there were any challenges we needed to talk through, we would address those quickly. And then just as importantly, we were there to troubleshoot issues in real time. Jonathan hinted at this. Because we were moving so quickly, as challenges came up with Generate or understanding the mapping, we were able to work through those together to maintain the momentum instead of getting stuck and hung up on that. So overall, our role was really less about directing the work and more about supporting just the progress and continuing to take a step forward, helping them move more structured approach, but still we had to remain flexible enough to really meet the reality of what you all were dealing with the staff changes and the systems.
I do want to also mention that Johnny was truly remarkable in his support, because there was times I was sending emails at midnight and he's responding to me at 1 a.m, and like we're going back and forth. So being available to us, that also helped us move very quickly, because in some situations that I'm sure everybody has been in, you send an email and you don't get a response for a day or two, that delays things. But them being available pretty much anytime we needed was another reason why it moved as quickly as it did.
Yeah, absolutely, Johnny. Sometimes I wonder when he sleeps. So let's move on a little bit to challenges and opportunities. So, Jonathan, we were not without challenges here. What were some of the biggest challenges that you faced early on?
So one of our biggest challenges when we did this entire transition of both of our systems was that our data collection system did not transition as well as we wanted it to. And so we had a lot of issues with a lot of the data we had collected that needed to be reported for 23-24, which obviously we've gotten fixed since then, but that first initial one that we had really caused a lot of challenges for us. We had to go to districts and do a lot of manual data collections to make sure we had the correct data. We at one of our at our annual conference we host every summer with our districts. I remember we were on the second day of the conference, and my boss at the time comes up to me and he's like, we need you to get on the stage, get the microphone, tell every district, if you need to do this, you need to go to these rooms, go work with all of our individuals that are in these rooms, because we need to figure out what we have and we don't have. So we had a lot of challenges with that. We had a lot of issues. Again, it was just unfortunately the transition of our new data collection system didn't go as well and as smooth as we wanted it to. So it did cause us to have some issues when we were trying to pull all the files in to generate or all the data in to generate and then create all the files, because we were missing some data and all kinds of other things. But that was by far our biggest challenge that we had to experience. And then after that, it was just the transition of all of our staff. As I mentioned, our previous EdFax coordinator, she was in the middle of retirement right as we were transitioning between files that were due. So trying to get as much of that institutional knowledge before she left, as well as managing who was going to be taking over. What role was Tom going to play at the time? We weren't exactly sure. I know he was helping us out to get it resolved when we first hit those challenges, but what was his long-term role going to be in this? What was my role going to be in this? There's just a lot of kind of what ifs when we hit that huge hurdle, but then we were able to stable the ship after a little bit of time of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So I know having incomplete data as it's coming in has got to be just an awful feeling. What's changed for you all after all of that, and moving forward?
So the biggest thing that has changed for us is obviously like I mentioned, we got a lot of our stuff fixed and corrected and fine-tuned within our data collection system from our LEAs. So we're getting in a lot better data on the front end. It has also changed on the back or on our side because with the challenges we had, with a lot of the issues we experienced early on, it really put a light on how important this data is and how important our deadlines are, how important all this is. Granted, it's not that our leadership didn't see them as important, but I think as time goes on, other priorities come up, so things get kind of pushed to the background. So this really put a light on how important and how much time and dedication it really takes to do all of this work. So it really helped because if we were not only was I getting support from my CIO to accomplish this work, but we were getting support all the way up to our cabinet secretary level, really giving us the time, giving us the resources we needed to make sure that we were accomplishing everything that we needed to accomplish. Was we were generating these files. If we were hitting any issues, any blocks, any data concerns, again, we had support all the way up to our cabinet secretary level, who was really great. And anytime we needed something from a district who was not responding, she was always willing to step in and help us to get what we needed so we can meet all of our deadlines. So those have been like the biggest changes for us, is the fact that we've been able to get a lot of support from our leadership, again, all the way to the top, not just up to my bosses, but all the way up to our cabinet secretary, who is able to then reinforce how important it is to all of our programs. And that's been our biggest change. And then the other change is our staff has gotten a little bit more confident, has gotten more comfortable with our data collection system, the Generate system, our program staff. We actually had a lot of transition of program staff at the time as well. So our Office of Special Education was having some turnover. We had some bilingual turnover. We had a bunch of people kind of moving around within the agency. So a lot of that knowledge was kind of leaving without it being properly transferred. So it was a bit of a learning curve while we were experiencing all those challenges for a lot of these people. Since then, again, we've gotten a lot more stable in what we're doing and who knows what, and doing a whole lot better job of documenting where all this stuff is. So as Julia says, if I hit the lottery tomorrow and I don't come back, so they have somewhere to start from. So yeah, so that's kind of where we are now and how we've been able to really help ourselves be in a better spot than where we were before.
That leadership support, and that time is so important. I always, if anybody's worked with me before, I always say it takes like at least a year, maybe two, to really understand the EdFax cycle for everything, because there's just so much that is involved with it. Julia, talk to us a little bit about how, as a TA provider, you approached some of these challenges.
Yes. So our approach was really grounded in meeting New Mexico exactly where they were at that moment, because we had to. They were running. But early on, it was a lot of, competing priorities and moving parts. So instead of trying to introduce a fully structured or ideal process with the toolkit right away, we focused on just helping them move forward immediately by cherry picking pieces that we knew would help structure our work. We took a very collaborative approach with our weekly meetings. We weren't coming in with any prescribed solution. We were working really alongside Jonathan and Tom to understand what could work given the team's capacity, the other constraints they had, and then just adjusting and adapting. So we would bring best practices and recommendations, and then maybe that's not something we could tackle this round, but something we're aware of that's an improvement opportunity next year. And it was adapting and right sizing. Really, the example that you gave, Jonathan, of leadership really giving you all the resources you need. It made me think of during that school year 23-24 reporting cycle, you got that surge support and additional staff to support you. And that really pivoted our support a little bit to help define key roles and responsibilities at each of the stages and phases in the data pipeline and the submission process, so that you could understand who could help, who could be slotted in that process. And Johnny did some kind of different off the cuff training to onboard some of those staff so that they could try to be as effective as possible, as quickly as possible. So overall, our support was really flexible and practical and focused on progress and just helping in any way that we could to keep moving forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I don't want to focus too long on challenges. We also had a number of opportunities. So Jonathan, tell us what changed with your data when you began aggregating that with a standards-based approach?
So the biggest thing that changed for us when we started using this standard-based approach was we realized that maybe some of the stuff that was written 10, 15 years ago isn't quite still right. So we had to go back, and we really had to look at some of the stuff we were doing, and it helped us change how we were collecting some of this data as well. So it was able to help us identify some things that we maybe weren't doing as well as we could have been doing. And so it helped shine a few lights on things that, or we hadn't just kept up with what the requirement was. In again, a case that a report was built 10 years ago, no one really went in and looked at logic of how it was done. So having a standard-based approach helps us a lot, because we know it's up to date. We're not having to re-look at it every single year to make sure, like, oh, has anything changed? Obviously, we have to look at our stuff to make sure that we didn't change what we collected, but that's fine, because hopefully that's a one-time thing, and then it kind of runs smoothly after that, which has pretty much been the case for us. But yeah, so that's been the biggest, is when we've made that change, we've been able to identify some things that we were able to improve on, whether it was data quality, data issues, missing data, whatever it might have been, but that it helped us to collect better data at the end of the day.
That warms my heart as a CIID TA person. I always just think and get really excited when we find those areas of what becomes data quality improvements, right? Because oftentimes that code, if it has been written, a decade ago, maybe the guidance hasn't changed that much, but if you're not constantly reviewing it and looking at it, you might not know what somebody before you might have missed.
Yep.
So those are always the really exciting pieces about that. And so thinking just about the evolution, and I want to make sure we have some time for audience questions here. Over time, what's really changed between that first year where we were working on getting in files through Generate to year 2, and now we're going into year 3 with directory files being due next week?
So biggest change is, like, we are so much more ahead of the curve than what we had been recently. Actually, and Julia, you'll be kind of happy to hear this. We have all except for one file done, which is great. So we're pretty much done with all of our directory stuff, pretty much a week ahead of time, where usually we're working until that almost close to that deadline to get these in. So that's been the biggest change for us. Is yes, we're still fine tuning some of our processes. We're still fine tuning some of our things, but overall, it has made the process a lot smoother. The first year we did this, and again, Julia could attest this, Johnny could attest this. We were up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning, troubleshooting different types of issues. This past year when we did it, I think the latest I stayed up was maybe one night. I stayed up to like midnight because it was getting close to the deadline. But other than that, I was like pretty much 9 o'clock was the latest I was working, if that. So it's making it a lot easier for us. We're streamlining a lot more of our data movement from our data collection system into Generate. And it's making it a lot easier for us to manage it.
That's just awesome. Julia, what about our support? How has that evolved as time has gone on?
Yes, there was a pretty clear shift in the focus of our support from year 1 to year 2. So in year 1, everything was about speed. The priority was the files need to be submitted. And so our support was more reactive and focused on helping navigate the immediate challenges. And for the most part, documentation and any long-term structure was secondary because we just simply didn't have time. But as we moved into year 2 with the school year 24-25 reporting cycle, the focus shifted more towards sustainability and efficiency and process improvement. And we haven't brought this up, Jonathan, but snapshots became so much more stable in the school year 24-25. It was challenging in that first year. So this is in the second year, we really were able to emphasize documenting some of the processes, capturing the decisions and the rationale, and then refining those processes so that they could work more repeated and more consistently in the next round. It's so exciting to hear the directory because it's like our goal is it's real now, but we really started to look closely on improvements and what could be moved upstream. And so data quality issues could be addressed earlier in the process rather than at the reporting stage. And Jonathan did an expert job looking for ways to shift left in the process and start earlier. And the directory is a model example of that you all started it a month and a half early and you're now a week ahead of deadline submitting it. So it's really exciting to see. Overall, the evolution was from really that first year is just getting it done, and now it's making it sustainable.
Awesome. So Jonathan, we've got this lovely picture of a road. What does the road ahead look like for New Mexico as you're prioritizing moving into the future here?
The main stuff that we're looking for in the future is ensuring, and Julia's been great on this with her team of helping us document everything that we have, as well as continuing to increase and improve our data quality. Like even this last round of submissions, we're still identifying things that we can do better. And like kind of what Julia mentioned, we are trying to move a lot of that stuff to our front end data collection of saying, hey, this is something we have to report. Let's do a check on it in our front end data reporting system so that way we can have the data right away at the start, be as clean as we can get it and as nice as we can get it. So that way when we get downstream, it's a lot smoother. We're not looking for things. We're not trying to find things that we might have missed. And so again, just kind of what Julia was mentioning, sustainability, we want to make sure that everything is easier, and then finding ways to improve our external partners. So all of our programs, how can they start to use Generate? We're going to start with our Office of Special Education and in actually giving them access to Generate this next round of submissions. So finding ways to make it easier, but make it more transparent even for our programs so they can see what we're doing in Generate rather than just trusting us all the time, which I don't mind them trusting me, but I do want them to have double checks on me because there are times where I miss things. So those are a couple of the things that we're trying to move forward to. But ultimately, just think like everybody else across the nation is just we want to collect better data. We want to submit and report better data. And that's always our highest goal is try to get that as nice as we can make it.
Absolutely. And I love, making sure that all your program offices have that access, because they're able then now, with some of the updates that have happened in the past year or so, to they can see those student lists for each of those accounts and really do some of that data quality confirmation right there in the system. So I'm looking forward to hearing about that. If we want to move along, I want to just take a moment to kind of share some of the numbers here and what success looks like, and look like for you. And Julie, wonder if you want to kind of speak to this and chat about it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. So on this slide, this is New Mexico's school year 24-25 submissions by the numbers. I don't even know, Jonathan, if we've looked closely at all of these numbers, but 33 EdFact files submitted through Generate in the last reporting cycle, and that's an increase from the previous round. And then really excited, 8 new files developed and available through Generate for other states to use. So those familiar with Generate, those are the pilot files, the ones that hadn't been fully developed or run through Generate before. So Tong leading the effort in the development of those with Johnny's support. And those are now in Generate and available for other states to use. And there are a couple more, I think 2 more in the works that through this round will be also ready. And then just amazing, kudos, Jonathan, being able to send the email up to his upper leadership at the end of this reporting cycle saying 100% timely submission on all the files into EdFact. So it's really nice to see it all on a slide.
It is wonderful to see on all the slide, and I'm seeing some applause kind of pop up here. I think this is really a testament, Jonathan, to your team and the work that you all have put in, and we love celebrating that success. And do you have any advice for other states? I want to make sure we have time for an evaluation and some questions, but give you time if you have some
quick advice. It's going to be very quick,
yeah.
so don't worry. Don't do the New Mexico Fast and Furious approach. It gives you more white hairs than anything. No, all joking aside, the biggest thing I would just recommend is, if the more leadership support you can get and the team you have around you, if those two are very aligned and supportive of each other, it makes this a lot easier. So if you can take anything from anything that we've been able to accomplish, it is, try and get as much leadership support as high as you can get it, because the more you get, the easier it is to justify what you're doing and prioritize possible other work that you're trying to get done as well. But yeah, don't do the New Mexico Fast and Furious approach. It's not fun. I didn't have so much white hair before.
Julia, do you want to speak a little bit about just what you see that has made implementation work?
Yeah. So based on this experience, there's a few elements that consistently contribute to successful implementation. The first is the people and commitment, like Jonathan said, having individuals who are engaged and willing to problem solve and be committed to the work makes a significant difference. And we saw that clearly with Jonathan and Tong's partnership, and the leadership support is so critical when priorities are clearly defined at that leadership level. It just creates the space for the team to focus and move forward without competing demands and having to make those hard decisions. And then finally, structured support plays an important role. So whether that's technical assistance or governance support or project planning, having the support helps teams navigate the challenges more efficiently and really maintain the momentum. So it's a combination of many things, and those elements really just enable progress over time.
Thank you so much. So we have about 9 minutes left in our time, and I feel like we could have so much more conversation. But we wanted to just pause to see if anybody has any questions for Jonathan or Julia or about Generate, anything we can help with, or anything you'd like to know in particular. And while we pause for questions, we're going to throw a link into the chat for our evaluation. Because your feedback on the quality of these webinars, on what you get out of them, is so critical for us. So we will pause it here and allow you to do the evaluation. It's a quick 3-minute survey, but happy to have any questions in chat or raise your hand. Jonathan, Julia, while people are thinking through this, I just want to thank you all so much for joining us today, for sharing your story, and providing the real contribution that you did for the community using Common Education Data Standards and Generate. We're really excited to be able to share this sort of success and can't wait to see what happens in the future as CIID expands out into Part C. So thank you all so much.
Thanks for having us. And thank you, Jonathan. Really, all the kudos is going to your team and just all the work that you've done to get us where we are. So been a great partner in this and looking forward to and excited to hear about Directory already.
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me and appreciate you guys listening.
And I do see one question. Were there any big challenges or benefits to your technical infrastructure?
Our challenges that we had, particularly with our technical infrastructure, is with our new data system, we were using the EdFi data standard to collect the data. If anyone is using EdFi, you guys are aware that there's not really any universal mappings out there that are easy for people to use from EdFi to CEDS. So that was kind of one of our biggest challenges. Again, luckily we have a Tong who he's able to make all those connections, and he's the one who really just he sat down and he literally mapped out everything he needed to map out for us from our EdFi data system to the CEDS data warehouse, which of course we're still making modifications to with some ways the data was mapped. So that's probably been one of our biggest challenges with our technical infrastructure, was just making sure that the data was moving from our EdFi system to our CED system in the proper way, and all landing in the proper place, because that was another thing. We did have things landing in places that they shouldn't be, or we were pulling data from places that it shouldn't have. And so we had to do a lot of that fine tuning of where it's coming from and where it's landing. If you reach out to us, if you reach out to me, I know they were going to put my email on here, but if you want to reach out, I can get you in contact with our DBA who did some of that stuff, and he can probably share a lot of it's going to be very New Mexico specific. So there might be like extensions and stuff that we have at EdFi that you might not have, but I can put you in contact with him, and he can possibly share that with you.
And Doris, we can help connect you as well. We're happy to do that.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thank you, for coming, everybody, to the webinar. We will have this recording posted on our website, and look forward to seeing you in the future.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you, everyone.